been talking this week about the building of the tabernacle of David. The tabernacle of David which God is building, James says in the book of Acts. And that tabernacle was a very simple tabernacle. Didn't have all the very precise legal dimensions and all the wonderful structure of the tabernacle of Moses. It was just a tent with that glorious ark inside. And then we've been talking a bit about bringing back the ark. You see, the children of Israel lost the ark. That's a terrible thing, isn't it? Because the ark represents the presence of God. And we read the other day how that all the time of Saul, that flesh thing, when it reigns, they never sought after the ark. When fresh flesh reigns in our spirits, we're never desiring the presence of God. That reign has got to end. And the reign of David's got to begin before there's a call to bring back the ark. But you see, they lost the ark way back there. There were many, many years without it. Oh, they had it. You know, God's true people always have had it. Because when we're born again, we're born into the presence of God. Did you know that? We don't have to find our way back when we're born again. We're born into it, if you're truly born again. And you've been filled with a true filling of the Spirit of God, a real baptism of God. You had a renewing of it. But if you're like 99 and 9/10% of all the people I know, there comes that time when what you've had you lose. Flesh begins to reign. We don't know to appreciate. Would to God we knew how to appreciate. Would to God we had sometimes better teaching. I've seen some that have not lost it. And I'm glad to say it's not necessary to lose it. But some have, and many have. There were many reasons why they lost the ark. One was because of a decay in the ministry. Perhaps that was the first reason. A real decay in the ministry until the holy things were not holy. Remember how the sons of Eli were defiling the sacrifices. The holy things were not holy. And when the outer holy things are not holy, it doesn't take too long and for the inner holy things are not holy any longer. That's why God keeps a little watch over the outer things too. I know that holiness isn't just outward do and don't. But I know you can't be too careless with the outward, or if not, there'll be a carelessness on the inward. And that's what happened. And then, you know, they got in war with the Philistines, and they decided they needed God's help, so let's bring up the ark. They just assumed, you know, that God's just going to take care of it. It didn't make any difference how they live. You know, I bless God. God's gracious, and God's full of mercy, and God's just going to take care of us. God's with us. Well, let's get that God with us. So they bring up the ark. And there was a great shout in the camp. It says the very earth trembled. And the poor Philistine says, oh, we're sunk. Their God's come unto them. But they fought anyhow, and they won. What a lesson. What a lesson. It isn't form and ceremony that's going to save it. What a lesson to realize that God is not obligated to anybody. He's obligated to His Word, but He's not obligated to you or to me. And there's no favorites in God, and you can't get away with anything, and I can't. There's only one standard, and that's for all of us. And if we don't live up to it, and then the day of need come, we cry to our God, we can make such a hullabaloo, the devil himself will get scared, but we still aren't going to win. Because God is not for us if we're not for Him. It's good to remember sometimes the Jehovah of the Old Testament when we think of the sweet little Jesus of the New Testament. Or may I say, if you want to remember the sweet little Jesus of the New Testament, remember also He's one that with tremendous anger can take and made a whip of cords and drive out every one from the temple with a real cleansing. Just remember Him both ways. He's both. The Jehovah of the Old Testament and the Jesus of the New are the same. The manifestation of one God. And I want to read for you in the fourth chapter of 1 Samuel about the high priest Eli. He came running in to give the news of what had taken place, this man did, and he found Eli. We find that Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside, watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. His heart trembled for the ark of God. When the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. Now, the thing is, if the presence of God has departed from a person or a place, is there that trembling? Is there that fear? And when they made mention of the ark that was lost, Eli gave such a start, he fell over backwards and broke his neck. Such a tremendous fear. Is there that fear? Is there that longing? Is there that understanding of what tremendous poverty there is if we lose the presence of God? If that presence, and I mean that tangible presence where God moves across from the invisibles, we might say, to the conscious levels of man, till He moves into my life. I know He fills all space. But I know I've been swimming many times in the great big ocean, and I try not to let one drop inside. And we can be surrounded by God, and yet God hasn't moved across till we're in His presence. And God wants us to know that there is a place where man can come in and consciously communicate and enjoy and glorify and be filled with the wonder of the presence of God. And if you know there is such a place, and you do not have it, or your people do not have it, what is the attitude? It is the attitude of this man that knew to appreciate, and the very risk of losing it caused him to tremble. That fear. And when they realized he had lost it, well, it brought his death. It was so terrible to him. You see, David longed for that ark. He longed for the day he could bring that ark back. He longed for the day when they could say, let us bring up the ark of God. Now, we've come through part of this, and I don't want to spend time in the wrong place. But I want you to turn also to 2 Samuel, the 6th chapter. Out of this tremendous trembling, out of this need for the presence of God, they went to bring back the presence of God. Well, we went over how they tried it the first time and went wrong because they didn't do it according to the due order. And how that one of the most important factors, and that's why Uzzah was stricken dead, was because there was the profaning of the holy. They still did not come up to appreciating what the ark of God was. They were still handling it with unsanctified hands, with unsanctified spirits, with unsanctified hearts. And when God struck that man dead, and they appreciated at last what it meant, not only on the positive side, but on the negative side, that you can't play with God if He's really there. Well, then it brought some deep heart searchings. And then they sanctified themselves, as we noticed last night, and prepared themselves and to bring back the ark in the right way. And what is the right way? You see, the presence of God is the one thing that makes the worship of God acceptable. And it makes it powerful. And it makes that glorious church. Remember when Ananias and Sapphira walked in? And Peter said, you lied to the Holy Ghost. In other words, you touched the ark. You touched the holy thing. You profaned it. And they fell dead. Right? What is that presence? And it said no man dared to join themselves themselves to them. If they weren't in, they weren't in. They stayed out. Unless God did a work, there was a presence there. And if they were in, they were in. Gloriously in. Until even the table waiters were busy working more miracles than they were washing the dishes. It was a wonderful time. You see, that presence must come back to us. And God wants to bring that presence back to us. Until it's a holy place. Until people can't come in and just mess around. They can't come in with their religious spirits. They can't come in with that profaning the holy. They can't come in with all their pretenses and their hypocrisies and their lying. They're going to stay outside. I've seen many such times. I've talked to people, invite them in, they say, oh no, I'm not coming in. Why not? Well, if we go in there, I'll have to repent. No, we'll stay out here. Because there's a presence. We've seen it many times. We've been dancing as the ark's been brought forward. We have my co-pastor down there is a brother minister, a precious brother in God. He's a man that's very high up in social and business circles. And he heard that something was going on, and his wife said to his daughter, well, why don't you go down there and see what's going on? So she came down with a friend, and they arrived on the bus that morning, and God was leading us forth in the dance. They just danced a little service, nothing particular. There wasn't any great dance about it. It wasn't anything showing how somebody could move their body around. It was just really expressing what they felt in God. They were walking in a little circle, praising the Lord. But I tell you, it was a circle of dynamite. We watched people get in there more than once, and we know what had happened if they get in. And so they came and they watched. There's about 30, 40 kids were rejoicing and praising God. And these two lovely young ladies came to look on. They just got there that morning. They'd ridden all night. And a couple went over and said, well, wouldn't you like to join us? Well, all right, they said. Yeah, I guess we could walk around too and sing the chorus. And so they got in that magic circle to sing the chorus. And we knew what would happen when they did. And they went around and they sang the chorus like the rest of them for about 5 or 6 minutes, and all of a sudden, oh God! And they just died to the floor. And I tell you, it was an hour they wept their hearts out in cleansing. They were Christians in cleansing. Well, it ended up the girl stayed there. Said, I'm not going home again. Mom, she called her mother, come up here. It's glorious. Well, what's going on up there? She says, I don't know. I'm just crying all the time. I go, I don't want to get into that then. She said, I haven't cried since I was a baby, but I'm crying now. Well, the end of the story is it brought the whole family into God. And he became my co-pastor. Precious work of God. Because they got into a place where they were bringing up the ark. We've seen it many times. We went out to visit a little church one time. And that little circle formed, and they were just enjoying and praising God. And one person would get in the circle, and it would hit him. And another would get in the circle, and it would hit him. And that was working according to schedule. That was all right. But a woman got in there, and you know when you're walking in life, you can see more than people think you can see. And there was a woman got in there, and she was quite a little religious dame, you know. She could go right along with the rest of them. And she lasted more than a half hour. And some of the kids came to me and said, I said, look, she got her nose in, you leave her alone. And she went through the whole service and nothing happened. And the kids couldn't believe it. How could she get in that place and nothing happened? I said, just wait, not over yet. And so the afternoon service, sure enough, she got in, and some more came in. Pastor, she's in it again. I said, leave her alone. And so she went along, and she went along just about a half an hour more, and all of a sudden, oh my God! She said she just jumped back in the bed. It hit her. The presence of God. The presence of God. Do you know what the presence of God is? It's such a holy place. Such a glory place. You don't get in there like you think you would. You don't get there like that. We want the presence of God. Just be thankful it's not there till you're ready to touch it with clean hands, or something might happen. Because I've seen things happen. Not always a pleasant thing. I remember one time, we were in a conference, and there was a boy in our orphanage whose father was supposedly, we say in Spanish, between quotes, once upon a time he was a Pentecostal preacher, and then he joined up with a I don't know what you'd call him, I guess a half-spiritist. He worked with a combination of several things. It's a name that you wouldn't understand, but it's very much akin to Spiritism. And he left his son there and went off and was having a wild time. And he wanted to take his son out. He guess about 7 years had passed by. And he came up and wanted to see me. Well, I was in services. I wasn't going to walk out from what we were doing to talk to that man about his boy. He'd walked off and left his family and everything. I said, if he wants to see me, he can come where I am. I'm not going where he is. I didn't think he'd show up, but he showed up in the afternoon service. And he walked in there. He was heavy set. He was short but stocky and portly. He had a big gold chain hanging down. And he came with a little portfolio. And he put on the preacher act, and he sat down as if and he looked around. We were just having a glory time in God, just praising the Lord. And he looked in, he says, hallelujah. Looked around. Nobody paying attention to him, so he backed off and just sat down on the bench. And God was moving, and there was a precious dealing with a family that had been in much need, and the service developed around that whole family as they were brought back into God. He's watching all of this. No one paying any attention to him. And after this family was all the way through and wept their hearts out and then wept the Spirit back in, and they were on their feet with their arms up and glorifying God and praising God, and all of us with them, well, they begin to form that little circle. Well, it wasn't quite so little, quite a few were there. And they formed the circle, and this man was sitting there. And one of the young ladies sitting had gone near to where he was standing now. Well, she didn't know what to do. They were joining hands. No one told her they were just joining hands. And of course, he was sitting there like this. Once in a while, he said, hallelujah. And she didn't know what to do. I said, well, just forget it. So they went on joining hands until they all of them joined hands. And I looked, and he was inside the circle. I said, uh-oh, something's going to happen here. Well, no one knew who he was. I think I was the only one present that knew who he was. And we were just having a glory time praising the Lord. And then his son was there. He'd been filled with the Spirit. And I said, Sammy, wouldn't you like to go over and just love your daddy? He never had. You never had any love from him? He said, sure. So he walked over to his big daddy, and he threw his little arms around him. Dad looked at me. What's going on here? But the little boy was praying, and was weeping, and wasn't talking to his daddy. Well, he didn't know what to do, so finally he put an arm on his shoulder. And it got a little hotter in there. It was a cold day, but he began to sweat. And the praises went on, and the glory went on. And all of a sudden, a young lady from Los Angeles was visiting us down there. It was Paul Henry's. Let's see, I think it was his niece. She was visiting down there, and God was moving in. And she didn't know who this man was. She didn't even speak Spanish. But she got out of the circle and walked around behind him and put her hand on his head and was just praying and weeping over it. And he looked around, but she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Jesus. And he didn't know what to do. She was disconnected to him. She was connected to heaven. And so he just kind of shrunk into himself and stayed there, and the sweat started dripping down off of him. And I just let things go. And then pretty soon there was a young man that was visiting from the States. And he didn't know who he was either. But he'd been brought into God. And he went over and he threw his arms around this man and put his head on his shoulder and just began to weep over him. Well, I tell you, I said, this is going to explode pretty quick. And sure enough, it did. All of a sudden, he shoved his little boy away. He said, "Oh, get out of me!" And he began to cast out his own evil spirits, naming them one by one. "You spirit of divination, you spirit of witchcraft, get out of me! You spirit of fornication, get out!" And he just tore around there. And then suddenly he fell on his knees, and the tears streaming down his face, he began to confess his sin, call out to God. And then after about 20 minutes, he opened his eyes, looked at it, he said, "God's here." He said, "I didn't know who you people were." He said, "God's here." And then he went on repenting. He stepped into the presence of God. Oh, our hearts need to tremble if we lose the presence. And we must, with David, cry out, "Oh, give us back the presence of God." We need that. We need that glory. We need that wonder. We need that makes us unique from all the people in the earth. Anybody can have a religion, but not everybody can have the presence of a living God. And so David was bringing back the ark. And there's one thing more I want to show you in bringing back the ark. Over in the 6th chapter, I believe, of 2 Samuel, the 13th verse. "And it was so that when they that bare the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings." David danced before the Lord with all his might. Now, I've investigated the best that I could. I don't know how long those paces were or what it really means. But apparently, every so often they stopped and had sacrifice. Whether it was 6 steps of our steps or whether it was a special measure, as I said, I've tried to investigate, and I couldn't go any further with the books and things that I had at my disposal. But apparently it means, in the Spanish it's the same, that they go so far and they'd stop. And the number was 6. That's the number of the walk of man. They'd stop and offer sacrifice. And then they get up and dance and have a glorious time and go another 6 paces. And they all get sober. And those sacrifices explain. And then they get up and have a glory time and it'll be wonderful. And then they stop. And again. And that's the way the Lord has led us. Oftentimes in the same service, we'll have times of shouting glory, and the same service will have times when they're stretched out weak, bringing their life under the blood. The walk of man, is pretty dirty, doesn't it? We need to have our feet. And they brought up the ark to Jerusalem, and they made a place for it, and they pitched it, and they established a whole new order of worship. A whole new order. God is bringing in a true new order. But it's not just new ideas. It's a building of the tabernacle of David that's been thrown down until the presence of God is once more in our midst. Father, tonight I pray that there shall be a trembling in hearts. There shall be awakening. Oh, we have the tabernacle of Moses. We have the Word. We are the chosen people. We know all the right ways. But God, one thing is lacking. Where's the ark? Where's the ark? Until the cry comes up from our heart, let's bring back the ark. Let's bring back the ark. That presence. That glory. That cloud. That covering, that which makes us different from everybody else, that which separates, that which is holy, that which would destroy the unholy and would glorify the holy. A new order, a church that walks with Jesus, that walks with Jesus in spirit and in truth, in reality, in cleansing, and in the presence manifested. So manifested that people will know when they step in. So manifested that the sinner suddenly finds himself where he never dreamed to find himself and cries out, "What must I do to be saved?" Until the unclean casts off his uncleanness, until the profane is stricken and flees or is stricken down. The presence, the glory, the wonder, the power. Oh God, bring to your church, bring to your church that reality. Bring us back to the new order, which is the old order, which is the first order of all, which is the way you began your church, and that's the way you're going to end this dispensation. The glory of God in the midst of thy people. Maybe it won't be too many, but it's going to be a people where the presence of God is. Jesus, Jesus, we want you. We want you. God, our hearts are longing for that. God, it's what our hearts are crying for, are weeping for. We've got so much, but what matters at is the one thing that's lacking. You said to Martha, your friend Martha, that labored so hard to please you with a good meal. You said, Martha, one thing is needful. One thing. One thing. God, we need that one thing. What difference does it make what people think of us? What difference does it make if the Marthas get mad at us and think we've us shirking our work and abandoning the right ways, the good old proved ways of Martha, the ways that seem right? God, what difference if we have the one thing that's above everything else? The presence, the glory of God, the presence of the glory of God, Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on me. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on me. Make me, break me, God. Make me into your image. Bring me to that one place. God, it's true. You are everything. All things are in you. Without you, nothing consists. Nothing else. You brought forth all things by the power of your word. If we can have you, we can have everything. But oh God, not just an idea, not just a doctrine, but the real, living, abiding presence of Jesus. Until we can say, I walk with Him, I talk with Him. Until we can say, I'm His. I'm all His. I belong to no other. I've renounced all my lovers and all my enemies. And I'm His and His alone. I belong to Jesus. I'm all His, and He is mine. He belongs to me. He gave Himself to me. And I possess Him with all the others. Master, there is a place. There is a glory greater than the glory of Moses, greater than the glory of the children of Israel with that cloud over them. There is a place. And in this hour, you want to bring your people into that place. Into that place. Bring us in. Bring us in. Call to us. Open our ears. Open our hearts. Create in us, O God, longings. Create in us groanings that cannot be uttered. Deep crying unto deep at the noise of thy channels. Come, O God. I want you. I want you. I want you. He's calling tonight. Do you hear Him? He's calling. He's calling for a people. I just feel to say, just come up and talk with Him. We're not going to make any special appeal. If you hear His voice, if He's calling to you, just come along. Just shut yourself in with Him and talk with Him. Tell Him, Jesus, I want you. I want you. I want to know that place. I want to be like Moses. If your presence goes not with me, take me not of hence. If we can't be like that, I don't want to go. Just cross out my name. God, I must have that place. I must know that place. My heart cries for the living God. For the living God. I need you, God. I need you. Oh Lord, cleanse us with cleansing deeper than we've ever known before. Cleansing down into our mind and our pride, into our motives, into the hidden places we've never even seen before. Let your light so shine that I see my need, O God, to stop and offer sacrifices. My need to stop short and slay on the altar. And the blood cover and wash again and again and again every 6 paces. For I walk the walk of man in an unclean world, where all around is unclean, and all that I touch is unclean. Give me to walk that walk. That walk that dances and glorifies God. That walk that stops. Yes, stops. Even every day. And there's a slave. There's a sacrifice. There's a burnt offerings of consecration offered. Jesus, speak to our hearts. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on me. Fall fresh on me. Spirit Spirit of the living God, move into us, cleanse us, sanctify us. Open our eyes and our hearts to behold the glory and the wonder that there truly is in Jesus. God, get us out of the ruts of playing church. Take us out of our kindergartens. Take us out of our little immaturities, fussings and feudings. Get our eyes off of man. If a man fails, why keep our eyes on him? Look away to Jesus. Forget him. Turn him over to the hands of him who is mighty to save. And fix our heart on Jesus. Oh, are we going to be derailed? Are we going to be deviated from the high places by such foolishness? Such foolishness. Oh Lord, examine us before you. Cleanse us, change us. Be thou magnified before us, O God. Reveal unto us your holiness. Show us, O God, where we're really lacking. Manifest thy light. We're in such darkness. We're in such shadows, such confusions and errors, doctrines, rare doctrines running about. Do we hardly know what or where to believe? Oh God. Oh God. Hide us away in the secret place of the Most High. Oh God. Bring forth a people unto yourself. A people who capture the vision of the hour and the purpose of God in this hour. Oh, the purpose of being caught away. The purpose of being made a people of God, in whom God dwells, in whom God manifests himself, in word and in deed, in whom God manifests himself in lowliness and meekness, in whom God manifests himself in great power and in great humility. Oh God, bring us in. Bring us in. Jesus, Jesus, hear my humble cry. While on others thou art passing, do not pass me by. Jesus, Jesus, hear my humble cry. You've done it for others. Do it for us. You've given others to know the secrets of your glory. Give it to us. To know the secrets of your presence. We don't ask to know the secrets of mysteries. You said we could understand all mysteries, but if we didn't have that place in Jesus, that love of God, it would amount to nothing. You said if we could prophesy great prophecies, understand all mysteries, have faith to move mountains, and didn't have the love of God, that mighty, flowing, powerful, captivating love of God, it would be in nothing. Lord, show us a better way. The way of knowing you. The way of the secrets of the Most High. that we may not understand mysteries. We might be like a Mary Magdalene, couldn't understand the mysteries of the resurrection, but she could see her risen Lord first of all, and fall at his feet and say, Rabboni. Oh, she didn't understand mysteries, but she loved him to wait until she found him, whom her soul loved. That's the secret I want to know. Those are the mysteries I desire. The mysteries of the secrets of the glory, the presence of God.